I'm up at the top of this eucalyptus tree, and it reminds me of a story of something that happened to me, gosh, 40 some odd years ago. It was a blue gum, which is different than this eucalyptus, and a blue gum that is topped sends out these long straight shoots. And the trees that we were working on, they were coming down, so I had to climb them and get rid of the tops. But these shoots were probably 6-7 inches in diameter, but they were like 40 feet long. And what I was doing is I was cutting them at a quick shot so they would spear down. Well, I was up in the tree, and the guy that I was working with was running the chipper, and it was one of those old chuck and duck chippers, you know, the house split. Anyway, long story short is I was up there, and he was probably 60-70 feet away from me, and I got impatient. I should have waited for him. So I saw that he was quite a ways away from me, so I focused on what I was doing, and I started making a cut, and I made it really quickly. And as this thing shot down, my buddy came running over to grab some more brush. This thing came shooting down from the sky and just missed him by 2 feet. Stabbed in the ground, and it went into the ground about 12 inches. It would have killed him. My fault. It was a situation that I got impatient. So, lessons from an old guy. Don't get impatient if you're up in the tree working and the guys are chipping. So I'm up in the tree. I'm actually in the bucket. I was able to get the bucket underneath this big eucalyptus tree. And you know, I'm not even certain which variety of eucalyptus this is. Maybe some of you guys can help me out. It's got a real thick, shaggy bark. And the tree had been topped in the past, so the tree is a mess. It's got very, very brittle limbs. So because of all these old topped cuts, I had to get enough of the weight out of here to keep this whole tree from blowing out big limbs. And they would have. There was so many weaknesses. Well, I'd like to take you on a little bit of a inspection tour of this tree, not just show you me cutting down big limbs, but I want to show you why. If you look over on the right there, you can see where this tree had been severely topped in the past, and all the new growth are suckers. You know, sometimes when I'm up at the top of the bucket, I get to look over in other people's backyards, and I see lots of swimming pools, but I don't see this very often. That's pretty cool. Sure was a lot of work. So throughout the tree, there was lots of broken limbs. There was lots of dead hangers. There was lots of things that were happening that really spelled out that this tree was a disaster waiting to happen. Oh gosh, I got down and helped Jorge chip. You got to know the capacity of your chipper. Too big. It happens. It was almost lunchtime, and I got down and I was looking at this dead ginkgo tree. There was a bunch of them here, and I was kind of curious. I wonder why it died. So they've got these deep watering tubes that they put in all over the place. The theory is you put the hose down there and it gets the water down deep and it establishes a deeper root system. But clearly there's something going on. The fact that I can move the tree this much tells me that it was either root bound or it's got root decay or something going on. So I'm looking at the watering area, and you can see the damp spot. That's the only area where this tree is getting watered. And because they're the small emitters, it's not really getting down there very deep. So Jorge and I both got on there. We rocked it and chopped and cut it out of there. And we got the majority of the root ball out of the ground because they're going to want to replant here. And let's take a closer look at these roots. What do you see? Well, it was definitely root bound. There's the hole, but you can see that there's hardly any bark on the roots. Jorge was chipping a lot of wood, and the bark on this tree is very, very thick, and it goes up in the air in a dust that is noxious and goes everywhere. So I did have to take off one large dead limb, and I made the cut close to where there was some old wounds, and I wanted to see how much drying out and how extensive the decay goes. Because every tree decays at different rates. Some species will contain a wound better than others. And here's where we had to cut it off at the base of the tree. You can see that there's virtually no decay spreading this far into the major portion of the trunk. But like I said, it was completely and totally dead. And here's another part of it. Top doesn't show any decay, but right below the wound, there's that decay. It's a weakness, and you make judgment calls based upon how bad a tree is. This is up in the canopy, and this is a major crotch with two large sections. One went off to the left and one went up straight. That's telling. You got to make your decisions based upon weaknesses. You find something like that, you've got to do something. And the tree had been butchered in the past. And whoever got up there just up and down, up and down, up and down with spurs for years and years and years. And the bark was riddled with spurs. A lot of people say, well, a thick bark tree can handle it. Well, a thick bark tree means you got to really jam the spurs in hard to catch the wood. So no, if you're going to prune a tree, don't use spurs. Any professional knows this. So if you're an amateur and you're doing that, well, you got to stop and rethink about what you're doing. Because the reason we're in this business is to take care of trees, not butcher them. Just because a client says too tall or whatever reason, I need more sun, do what's right for the trees, or pick another career. Anyway, I get frustrated. Ad nauseum, I see these trees everywhere. Not just this type of tree, but I mean trees that are butchered by people that just don't know what they're doing. I'm editing the next morning and went and got my coffee. That's the view out of my kitchen window. And just like that, a cloud blew in from over us and everything is overcast. How things change.